A woman shoved her foster son at me and said, "He's too sick. We want to return him." I'm a pediatric social worker at Children's Hospital, and I'd never seen someone try to return a dying child like he was a broken toy until the Johnsons walked into my office. Mrs. Johnson pushed 9-year-old Michael forward in his wheelchair like she was returning something to customer service, while Mr. Johnson stood by the door checking his phone. "We can't do this anymore," she said, dropping a garbage bag of his clothes on my desk. "The cancer's back and it's terminal. We didn't sign up for this." Michael sat there in his dinosaur pajamas, bald from chemo, holding a stuffed T-Rex and staring at his lap while his foster parents talked about him like he wasn't there. Michael's file made me sick to read because it documented 7 previous families who'd given him back like he was defective. His birth parents lost custody when he was 4, after leaving him alone for 3 days to go to a music festival. The first foster family, the Garcias, kept him for 8 months before returning him because he wet the bed and had nightmares that woke their biological children. The second family lasted 3 months before deciding he was too emotionally needy because he asked for hugs and cried when they left for work. The third family returned him after 2 weeks, claiming he had behavioral issues, which turned out to be him hoarding food in his room because he was scared of not having enough to eat. The fourth family kept him for a year, and he thought he'd finally found home until they got pregnant and decided they wanted to focus on their real baby. The fifth family returned him when he got strep throat because they didn't want their kids catching anything. The sixth family sent him back for crying too much after their dog died, saying he was too sensitive. Then Michael got diagnosed with leukemia at age 8, while with family number 7, who literally left him at the hospital emergency room and never came back. The Johnsons had taken him 6 months ago, when he was in remission, and they seemed different from all the others. They were experienced foster parents with 3 biological teenagers, and lived in a 5-bedroom house with a pool. They took Michael to their lake house and taught him to fish, and enrolled him in 3rd grade where he made his first real friend. He called them mom and dad within a week, and drew pictures of their family that he taped to his hospital bed. When the cancer came back and spread to his liver and bones, the oncologist gave him 2 to 3 months at most. That's when the Johnsons started pulling away from his life piece by piece. First, Mrs. Johnson stopped coming to chemo appointments, then Mr. Johnson stopped visiting on weekends, then their biological kids never came at all anymore because it was too depressing. Michael noticed everything but made excuses for them constantly. "Mom's really busy with Ashley's college applications," he'd tell me. "Dad has to finish that apartment building before winter." When they stopped answering his calls, he said their phones were probably broken. The morning they returned him, Michael had been telling everyone they were coming to take him home for the weekend, but instead they came to give him back permanently. Mrs. Johnson filled out the paperwork while Michael sat there asking, "Did I do something wrong? I'm sorry I got sick again. I tried not to." She didn't even look at him when she said, "It's not your fault, but we can't do this." After they left, Michael asked if he could still call them mom and dad. "Maybe when I'm better they'll want me again," he said. "I can try harder." He spent his last 3 weeks asking me every single day if the Johnsons had called. The day before he died, he asked me to help him write apology letters to all 8 families who'd given him back because his hands were too weak to hold a pencil. "Dear Mom and Dad Johnson," he dictated while I wrote, "I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to beat cancer. Thank you for teaching me to fish. Love, Michael." 8 letters, 8 apologies for existing, 8 attempts to take responsibility for adults who'd thrown him away. Michael died at 3:17 a.m. holding his stuffed dinosaur with me beside him because my shift had ended at midnight, but I couldn't leave him alone. I found his journal under his pillow with the last entry, "I wish I had been good enough." I mailed those 8 letters like I promised, and only the Johnsons responded with a generic sympathy card that said, "Sorry for your loss."